Hey guys, welcome back to the Magfed Ranch Paintball channel, and today we're going to be continuing our myth busting. But before I get into it guys, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, share, and comment. Alright guys, let's get into it. Let me set up obviously this video with that preface, right? So previously in our other videos, I had mentioned that the M17 Heatcore has a very slight leak guys. It's just part of the system. It's how the bolt gets charged and set with that design, with that air design. And so there's always this constant air pressure that needs to be applied to the heat core for the bolt to be set and charged to fire. You know, they say the operating pressures for the heat core is somewhere around 650 psi to 800 psi. So, you know, the key is as long as you have that pressure in the tank, it's going to obviously allow the heat core system to function properly and fire the marker, okay guys? And so, as I promised in one of the other videos, I believe it was our T15 and M17 comparison, I wanted to time the time for us, because I was curious myself too guys, of how long it would take for that leak to completely drain an air tank. And in this particular case, it was the 13ci air tank, right guys? Just your standard, you know, buttstock air tank that we always use in our Magfed markers. And so guys, check out part one where I started the timing, right guys? So, you know, just go and see, you know, the beginning of that video just so you guys can understand where this video is obviously ending up and then giving you guys the results for that, okay? So in the previous video, I filled up this particular marker's air tank, which is our M110 clone marker, right? And we filled it up to 3000 psi. I started the timer as soon as it hit 3000 psi, guys, and started counting down, okay? And so, real quick hint, if you guys want to check what the time was when the air tank completely emptied, obviously it's in the thumbnail, right guys? But real quick, a couple of key moments that I want to reveal to you guys, so that way hopefully this whole test, this whole you know, I guess process that we went through just to figure this out, there was a couple of key moments that I noticed, okay guys? So one, I noticed that after approximately the first 2 to 2.5 hours, we were already down at roughly 2100 psi in the tank, guys. So just a hair above 2000 psi. So right around 2.5 hours to 3 hours, your air tank is going to be has lost 1000 psi already, guys, due to the you know, that heat core design, right? Intentional leak design, okay guys? But this is another cool factor. So it's not an exact multiple of 2 hours or 3 hours. So obviously I started the filming late in the day, guys, and so of course I had to go sleep. I had to work in the morning. So at approximately around midnight, I checked it again. And at that time, it was approximately 6.5 hours into the test, guys. And at that time, the PSI, just so that way we're all on the understanding, it was still at 2000 psi, guys. So even at 6.5 hours, that psi didn't drop. It went from 2100 psi to 2000 psi. Okay, and so my guess is that as the tank gets lower and lower, obviously there's going to be less air pressure to hold that bolt in place. And so my hypothesis, which unfortunately I'll probably have to do another test or another video to prove this to us, you know, for us, right, find this out, is that as the air tank gets lower and lower, that leak's probably going to increase. Because as you guys noticed in the thumbnail, and I'll reveal the time right now, guys, it was exactly 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 18 seconds when the tank in this marker was completely empty. Now, I have to put an asterisk mark by that time, guys, because one of the first things I went to go try on the marker when I noticed that the gauge looked like it was at 0 was I went to go obviously test fire the marker to see if it had any pressure in it, okay? And unfortunately, this is another topic altogether, but the trigger of the M17 is literally just a single stage. It just breaks. So it did fire, just to let you guys know that there's going to be a little bit of variance in that time that I just stated. I was able to fire 2 more shots with the marker, just air shots, of course. But I was able to pop off 2 more shots, even though the gauge looked like it was at 0. And then after those 2 shots, it was finally 0. I couldn't. The trigger went completely dead. Okay, guys. So 12 hours, 6 minutes, 18 seconds. There's a chance because of those 2 shots that I took, it might have gone to 12 and a half hours. Maybe it would have gone to 12 hours and 45 minutes. But like I said, right, guys, somewhere between 12 to 13 hours is how long it's going to take for the Heatcore system's leak to drain a 13ci 3000psi tank. Okay, guys? Now, with a 10ci tank, of course, that time's going to be different. Most likely, it'll probably be faster, is my guess, but until we test it, we won't know for sure. Now, getting back to all those little key time frames, right, guys? So, like I was saying before, at 2.5 hours, it was about 2100 psi. At 6.5 hours, it was still at 2000 psi. When I got up in the morning, which is, like I told you, it was about 12 hours, right? It was pretty much at 0, but I was still able to fire a couple more shots. So my point was that 6-hour gap is when it lost the remaining 2000 psi. Okay, so in the first 6 hours, it only lost 1000 psi. But in the remaining 6 hours, it lost the remaining 2000 psi. So like I said, my hypothesis is that as the air pressure gets less and less in the tank, that bolt, unfortunately, doesn't get set as much. There's not enough air pressure to push that bolt forward to set. And so I think my guess is that the leak gets bigger and bigger as the pressure in the tank gets smaller and smaller. This is probably why, the M17 has reviews of it being an air hog, right? Or not being a very efficient, which is a valid criticism of this marker and of that system, okay? But the benefit of that system, as I have touched on, and I know other people have touched on out there, online, is that its consistency is the benefit of the system, right? Typically, I see a plus or minus 5 FPS between shots with the M17, and that's like on the high side. Generally, I might see a plus or minus 3 feet per second between shots. If I'm doing like a 3-shot group or a 5-shot group to test, to test accuracy. Okay, guys. So that consistency leads the M17 to have really good accuracy, especially with a rifle barrel, FSR shooting setup, with an optic. Okay, guys. So I guess I want to end the video on this, guys, because obviously, now that we've proven, that time frame on what the leak on the Heatcore system will take, right? I wanted to give you guys a little bit of at least where this marker I think would fit into like what your goals would be, what your mission purpose build would be. And I have 2 markers here to kind of showcase that, guys. I have our MR SDMR, H&K SDMR clone marker, and then of course we have our M110 SAS clone marker for you guys. And I think the DMM or the SASM setups would be ideal for an M17 because you're looking for that tighter groups, you're looking for that consistency to give you that better accuracy at longer ranges and longer distances, guys, right? So yes, could you use an M17 as an assaulter build? Definitely, right? You definitely can use that. But because of its air deficiency, right, not as efficient as like a T15 or an MG100 or some other markers out there, it would be better suited to a low volume of fire versus a high volume of fire, right? And then also, I probably wouldn't, this wouldn't be the ideal marker for like a long day event, right? Now granted, most events don't go 12 hours, right guys? I mean, I'm sure there are some out there, but but the point is, even after the first 2.5, 3 hours, you're already down to 2000 psi, right? And so if you're not constantly checking the air pressure in your tank with this marker, and of course, if you are firing a lot of rounds, like let's say, for example, you did set up an assaulter position, an assaulter build with this marker, and you're firing a lot of rounds, you're gonna have to refill the tank more frequently, especially to get that, obviously consistency that you want. Because my guess as well, too, guys, is that once the tank pressure drops below 1000 psi, that consistency might fade. Another good test for you guys, right? Another day, another test for you guys. That would be a good test to do with these markers, is its air efficiency and of course consistency depending on tank levels and pressures, right guys? I think that would be another good test. But also that's gonna be a lot of FSR rounds, guys. If anybody out there, right, if you guys, manufacturers, right, if you guys can, send me out some FSRs to fire, that would be more than welcome. I would definitely love to do the testing on these markers and on other markers for that purpose, okay guys? But yeah, so guys, that was the final conclusion on our test of the air leak in the heat core. It's approximately 12 to 12 and a half hours to drain a 13 CI tank, maybe 13 hours at the most. Okay guys, if you guys like this video, check out part 1 of course as well, but subscribe to the channel, smash that like button. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.